Welcome to day 10 of RPGaDay 2018. We've reached the double digits, and I know what you're thinking. How many hats does this guy have? Well, I'll tell you the same thing I tell everyone that asks me that question. Yes. On a more serious note, the topic for day number 10 is how have RPGs changed you? And I think RPGs have had a positive impact on me in a number of ways. The first one is when it comes to social situations, they're not really my thing. Uh, I kind of find people exhausting, and I feel like if I'm forced to be around people, that I spend a lot of effort kind of being somebody that I'm not to impress them or anything, but I have to pretend I'm having fun when I'm not really having fun. And so when it comes to like house parties or going out and hanging out with people all night, that's not super fun for me. It's not something I'm super anxious about or I'm miserable the whole time. It's just in the order of things that I want to do. It's not even in the top 10. I would much rather be at home doing my own thing or hanging out with a much smaller group doing something I enjoy. And one of those things is, RPGs. Even when it comes to hanging out with people to play RPGs, though, I do not feel exhausted in the same way after 4 to 6 hours of playing an RPG that I would if I spent 4 to 6 hours hanging out with a group of 6 people doing something else. Um, there's still a bit of a stress component to it. I'm normally the GM, so prior to hanging out, I spend a lot of time prepping and worrying about whether I planned for A and B, but the party's going to do C, or are my maps legible, or X, Y, and Z. But it's a good kind of stress that gets me thinking and planning and stuff like that. It's not the bad kind of stress that leaves me worn out and exhausted. The second way is kind of in the same vein in that I feel like RPGs really up the flexibility and critical thinking skills. Personally, I found that before I started really playing RPGs, I was really rigid in my this is the plan, and if things go off the plan, I'm going to be panic mode. How can I get back to the plan? But GMing a lot lately, especially in a lot of the narrative systems like Edge of the Empire, has made me realize that sometimes when you sit down with a group of people, your plan isn't necessarily the best plan. It's the best one that you came up with, but when you have more people, you have a better chance of there being a better plan, especially when the whole group comes up with a plan together. So RPGs have helped me realize that I built the puzzle and this was the answer that I had, but when the group comes at it and they don't see that answer, but they come up with one that not just works but is better than mine, it's okay for me to go, yes, that was the answer all along, and carry on like that was the plan because that's way better than what I came up with. And I don't feel hurt or offended that they didn't use my idea or that, man, I suck. How could I have not come up with that? It's so obvious, and all I could come up with was this. Instead, I go, man, RPGs are a great way. Look what I learned. I learned that next time I'm thinking of puzzles like that, I should be considering this kind of thing, not just my normal thought process. So it's really helped me become more flexible and adjust that critical thinking of, okay, here's a situation. Here's normally what I would think in that situation, but the last time I was doing stuff similar to this, the party came up with all these cool ideas over here. I should incorporate them into my planning, my puzzle making, my adventure hook planning. And so I think it's really helped in those ways. And then I guess the kind of final one is public speaking. Uh, it's in a similar vein as my as the social aspect of it, but I'm not a great public speaker. I do find standing around with my friends and ranting about work or video games or whatever. Um, but even if I was talking about the same topic, if I got up at the front of a classroom and tried to give a speech on work or video games or whatever, I stress myself out. I overthink it. I kind of lock up It's a thing that happened in my speech class and a few military presentations. Like, I psyched myself up for no reason, and it's not the end of the world, but I still find myself mumbling and stuttering over words. And so it's one of the reasons that I actually started this YouTube channel and started streaming my video games, is to just get myself talking to the camera and talking to the internet and talking more and trying to speak more clearly and just be more comfortable talking about stuff, because it doesn't matter. We're talking about games. Who cares, right? So I found that, especially becoming a GM, I'm no longer as nervous standing there with 5 or 6 people staring at me, waiting on me to describe the situation, describe what they see, describe the NPC that they're talking to, but not just that, take on the role of that NPC and have a conversation on the fly and do it half decently. As a small kind of add-on to that, I feel like RPGs have also helped with my vocabulary. My creative writing and my vocabulary have improved because I want to find better ways to describe the situations or NPCs, or talk as those NPCs. So I do a lot of finding synonyms and finding better adjectives for stuff, because I don't want to always use very, or I don't want to always use the same 3 adjectives. I want to find new and interesting ways to describe things. I end up learning about lots of different things I wouldn't have otherwise, like, medieval pole arms. So I now have a completely useless list of medieval pole arms because I spent so long making Pathfinder polearm fighters. So now I know the difference in a halberd and a bec de Corbin or whatever. But it's just one of those small little things you wouldn't think about when it came to RPGs: increasing your vocabulary, getting better at speaking, and improving your creative writing just from a wordplay standpoint. So that's my answer for day 10. Better at talking, better at writing, better at social situations, and better at being more flexible in my thinking, and realizing that my ideas aren't always the best ideas, but that I should learn from the ideas that other people have so that my ideas will be better in the future. As an ending tack on, one of the things I forgot to mention is all the extra programs that I now know a little bit about because of my RPG hobby. OBS for streaming, Photoshop's for maps, Adobe Illustrator, Hit Film Express to splice in the pieces of these videos. It's really interesting. Even very poorly chroma key use with the green screen just so that you don't have to see my office behind me. It's really interesting the kind of side talents you get when it comes to the RPG hobby. But thanks again for watching the video. You can subscribe right here. Check out the RPGaDay playlist for all of my other videos. And once I make it, the most recent RPGaDay will be right up there.